Hello there and welcome to video number 2 of our Pandas training in Python. In this video we're going to get a little bit more advanced with our data science techniques, looking at importing CSV files using Pandas. Now before we start, our CSV file is all about the Titanic, and if I was to ask you information, or if I wanted knowledge about this, for example, you would struggle to tell me by looking at all those entries. Firstly, how many people have we got? There's quite a few. It keeps going and going and going and going and going. Now then, so our job is to look at this CSV file, break it down into some kind of meaningful information, and to do that we're going to use Pandas. So the first thing we need to do before we get started is import it. So import Pandas as PD. Okay, should turn purple, happy days. Now, one of the main things is we need to import, can't spell today, import, oh my goodness, I really can't. Import the CSV file and put it in a data frame. So I'm going to call my variable Titanic, and it's going to say pd.read underscore, and look at all of them there. We can import and read lots of different things, and I'm going for a CSV file, comma, separated values, and it says which file is that. I'm going to say it is called Titanic in my folder .csv. Now to test this out, I'm just going to make sure that I can print out all the data, print Titanic, and that should, from our last video, output all the data. Okay, now we get cracking and watch what happens. It's going to throw a right wobbler. There you go. No such file and directory, titanic.csv. Now it's important to recognize that in your folders here, you need to look at where the CSV file is, and I'm using Visual Studio, and this is the solution file for Visual Studio. The project is actually here. This is my Python file that I'm writing in currently. I need to make sure that this Titanic is in the correct directory, so I'll drop it in there, and I'll make sure it's next to my Pandas program. So I'm going to stop this and run this again. Let's see what we get this time. Well, it's imported something, and it looks like it's imported the first 5 and the last 5 in there. Now you can see these dots in the middle. Technically, it would have expressed all the data, but it containerizes it, or drops it, or simplifies it a little bit so that we don't see all of the data, because it would take up our full screen. It tells me there's 891 rows and 12 columns in total. So that's good, and it's in tabular format as always. So happy days. We're good. We're happy with that. So let's do a little bit of data science then. Let's print out Titanic. Let's use this head method and print out the first 8 rows, okay? Run my program again and look at the output now. You can see here that I've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it prints out the first 8 rows starting at index position 0. Well, if you want the front of the data frame, that's fine. However, what about if you want to display the last rows? Okay, so we want to, all the way from 891, you want to display some of those. We use something called the tail method. And I use a print statement again, just so you can see it. Titanic.tail, and let's print out the last, let's go 10 rows. Run this again, and take notice of the index positions down here. So this is the first 8 rows, and this is the last 10 rows starting at 890. That's actually the 891st record. Goes backwards 10. So if you use the tail, it'll start at the end and work its way backwards that way. So this means that we can analyze from the front or from the back of any data frame we require. And then another handy little method that you can use. What if we want to know the data types in our data frame? We can use the dtypes method. Run this. And you can see here that each column header, these are all the column headers on the left hand side, it tells me what data type they are. So you've got integer 64, int 64, int 64s, name object, sex objects, you've got ticket, and you've got cabin, embarked, etc. These objects are mainly strings, float 64s, so it's floating point values, etc. So far so good. Data types just gives us all the data types of the series. And then, again, to finish off on this short video, remember the details from the last video? So we used it to give us all the details of the data frame itself. Well, now we want what we call a technical summary. And in the technical summary, it will say print Titanic info bracket because it's a method, and we'll run the info, and you can see what kind of information we can glean from this. So we have our class, there it is, range index of 891 entries, 0 to 890, so it tells you the start and end of the index. It tells you there's 12 columns in total. It'll tell you the data type of all those columns, the index position that they're in, the name of them, and how many times data has been entered into the cells. So there's not many cabins in there, and there's a couple of ages missing as well. And the data types added up, and the typical memory usage of the CSV file itself. And that's it, people. That is another little intro, starting with Pandas for the head and the tail, looking at data types and reading in from a CSV file. So hopefully you'll join me in the next one, where we'll continue on our Python Pandas journey. I'll see you there.